Yeah, we can see it. Brilliant.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. We're going to be talking to you a little bit about how Sheffield Hallam University Library has responded to generative AI. I'm Chloe, I'm a learning and teaching librarian. I'm also joined by quite a few colleagues. I'm joined by my colleague Sandy, who's also a learning and teaching librarian. I'm also joined by Susanna, who's a skills advisor, and also Julia, who's a library manager and also our project lead for the new generative AI working group. So moving on. So an overview of our quick talk. So we'll talk a little bit about the university's current stance on generative AI, how we as a library service has responded through different initiatives, learning points, things that we've kind of thought about as we've been doing those initiatives and what we've learned and what we've taken on board, and then our next steps. So what we're planning to do next.
Thanks, Chloe. So I was just going to look a little bit about what the university's stance is at the moment. And I think we've said it before in the group that we've been quite cautious, but we are also realistic. And we know that Gen AI is being used for academic purposes. So what we are wanting to do is to be able to support the students and to provide guidance on how they can use this technology within academic integrity. So the university has a little bit of a bottom-up as well as a top-down approach. They have produced some guidance for students, the AI learning and assessment guidance that's come from the top. And the university leadership are also currently developing what they're calling a short-term AI position, which is hopefully going to be announced in the next couple of months. But at the moment, the position is a devolved position. So the university regulations will permit the use of Gen AI unless the tutor or the assessment rubric explicitly forbids it, or students are using AI to create work which they then pass off as their own without acknowledgement, or if the AI generated content is not referenced correctly. So that's sort of the top-down approach, but it's being devolved to a bottom-up approach because the academics can decide in their own modules or their own courses how much or how little AI they will allow the students to use, which is why we are always referring the students back to their handbooks, their module handbook or their course handbook, where the information should be provided by the academics. One other thing that we have at the university is an informal cross-university AI group, which uses an internal social media platform called Viva Exchange, where we have quite lively discussions about the use of AI, and the academics discuss what they're doing, initiatives and things like that. So that's the stance at the moment. So I think if you want to move on, Susanna. Oh, this is me again. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. So what have we done so far? We've produced an online guide for students. So this is the library side. We have produced an online guide for students, which we produced in 2023. And I think Sandy's going to talk a little bit more about that. We have also produced some course slides within our information literacy sessions. We haven't yet got any workshop or webinar on using AI, but that is something that's in the pipeline. So we have a couple of slides that we talk to. We produce guidance for research, researchers. We're also looking at doing an audit of the various AI tools that are appearing at a rapid rate on various databases and other sources. We're trying to evaluate those and see what we can recommend to students. And we've got a session planned for later on this month for staff, for academics, looking at AI, which I think Chloe's going to talk about in a little while.
Okay, thank you, Julia. So as you mentioned, one of our first responses was to create a guide for students. This was a joint venture between the library learning and teaching teams, the academic skills team, and the research support teams. So within the boundaries set by the guidance being produced by Academic Integrity, we wanted to encourage the use of AI across a range of different tasks and uses. Set out some of the possible benefits and possible limitations of how AI might be used. Also, when Susanna talks a bit about Dominica Smithson's checklist for research, that's also one of the places where students can find and access it. Guides were given a prominent place on our library homepage. One of the things we hoped to get working from it, but didn't really work out, was a prompt library. So get users to suggest good prompts they'd found for their work. We had one or two enthusiastic contributors, but by and large, there hadn't been much interest in it. So that is something we might need to downgrade in the future. When the Academic Integrity guidelines came out, we were a little bit surprised to find that they said that we had referencing guidance on AI, because we hadn't at that stage. We did quickly manage to catch up and produce our guidelines as part of a wider AI guide. What issue we are encountering, though, is that while the official APA referencing guidelines we follow do cover AI when it's used as a source of evidence, so in a conventional way, there are lots of different ways of using AI. So it can be used to translate or transcribe or summarize other sources. Some sources might be published that are written using AI. I've not counted it yet, but surely we'll come across a day when we come across an AI-generated source that someone's based on information from another source. And this is causing all sorts of headaches trying to work out how people should reference these, because they are coming, but at the moment there is no firm, clear picture about what is the correct, consistent way of doing this. Okay.
Thank you.
On to Susanna.
Thank you, Sandy. So I'm an academic skills advisor in the library, and what I'm sharing here on screen is one of the slides that we drop into our topic sessions. So our topics might be planning and structuring or critical thinking, and we would adapt this slide a little bit depending on the topic. But you can see the general three-part structure here. So firstly, acknowledging the status quo. GenAI is out there and students can make the most of this new potential. Also, of course, importantly, with signposting to academic integrity, all that guidance that's there. And thirdly, just warning about the limitations of the AI output and encouraging that critical standpoint to check the output and improve on it. And then here's an example from my librarian colleagues. So I like this. Their three-part structure begins by emphasizing the need for students' own voice to come across, not just the output that the AI has produced. Again, there's the encouragement to check whether they're allowed to use AI in that assessment. And thirdly, because of course librarians, the importance of acknowledging that they've used it in their work. So the citation or the statement about their use. And so that's the kind of slide they've been dropping into their specialist subject focus sessions. Now I'm going to also talk a little bit about the guidance that's been put out for researchers. So this was led by Dominica Smithson in our research support team. And principally, they have an excellent guide about library research support where they've added additional information about the use of AI in research. There's a little podcast episode you can access when the slides get circulated. And also this checklist initially, this was a checklist for researchers. We've also now adapted it as well, a version for all students. And you can see this 3-part approach at the bottom of the screen here. So the idea of really questioning at each stage. So in the planning stage, should I be using it at all? In the active stage, how should I be using the best ways of using it and ways to be cautious whilst using it? And then when you come to submission of academic work or submitting work for publication in a journal, how are you going to show how you've used AI in your work? That's me.
Yeah, so we've also looked at evaluating GenAI tools. This first, of course, started with, we've been talking about Prima Research Assistant. So we also tested, I think, one of the beta versions as part of a cross-library project. At that point in time, we decided to leave Research Assistant switched off and wait until it had improved. But something that we have noticed, and I think everyone's noticed, is new AI tools are being introduced all the time. Some of these are widely promoted. So I have, for example, I was talking about Lexis Plus AI tool was widely promoted to me, but others are just switched on without notice. So I also look after finance, and there was one information literacy session where a student was starting to use a research tool with an AI tool with Statista. So we became very aware that we needed to do an audit of these tools, kind of to see what is available, freely available for us, and what has been switched on, what can we switch off. But also looking at it in terms of testing. So would we recommend use for students and researchers? I think we started our thinking with, well, should we switch these tools off? But now our thinking has evolved to, how can we recommend students to use these tools? Are there particular tasks that are particularly suited for them? So that's kind of where our mindset has shifted towards. And then, of course, we were approached by the business school to develop a training session for academic colleagues. And this session is going to focus on the use of generative AI within assessment. So both embracing it and mitigating against unethical use, particularly focusing on how students may use GenAI legitimately and reference and acknowledge it. So kind of all pulling together all these strands that we've been thinking about and talking about since 2023. So our session will cover the university's guidance. So everything comes back to the university's guidance. We always make sure that we are aligning with it. We're going to look at prompt engineering, ethical concerns. We'll talk about labeling of generative AI in assessments, and when and how generative AI should be acknowledged and referenced.
So some of the key learning points that we've come upon, firstly, is how can we position ourselves in the library? And I think this is an opportunity for the library to shine, really. We can take the initiative and provide some guidance and advice for students. At the moment, we are being very much reactive, but we would prefer to be moving towards a more proactive approach. We're looking at the guidance, as we've said, the guidance that the university is bringing out, and to see how we can complement that guidance and make sure that we are all sort of singing from the same song sheet, and we're giving the same message rather than confusing students with conflicting advice. So we're working alongside the academics to do that. Within our advice, we're looking more at the principles of using AI, the best practice, how we can reference it, reminding the students to be critical. It's their voice that we want to hear. Asking the students questions like, should I be using AI for this assessment? Go back to the module handbook. Is it allowed? If it is allowed, how should I use it? What is the right tool for the task that I'm doing? And then how should I acknowledge that? We're not currently recommending any specific tool, although we do have Microsoft Copilot as a standard on our university machines. Rather than promoting a particular tool, we are looking at the functionality and what is available. So that's where we are at the moment.
So where do we go from here? So the session we're delivering for the business school, hopefully if that's success, that can be rolled out more widely. So again, we can spread knowledge, a consistent set of standards and experience across academics in university. It's also probably a good idea to do something similar within the library. So at the moment, interest in AI is very much driven by personal interest, but it's going to be a big issue. Everyone needs to know about it and know about different tools, different tasks, what's permissible. So we need wider training around that. The audit of material is never ending. As I mentioned, these tools keep cropping up, so we need to keep looking at them and seeing what is suitable, what we recommend. Also, entirely new uses are cropping up. So a recent case has been around use of AI in assistive technology. We're looking at possibly developing a webinar for the students. Again, as part of our standard programme of skills workshops. Again, so there's some way of them accessing the knowledge about what's permissible, how to go about things, being critical, and so forth. And again, we're going to need to work with other groups within university. So at the moment, responsive AI has possibly been a bit balkanised, but if we work, be better integrated with other teams, for example, the project around AI and assessment that's currently going on, then again, we'll be better placed to make good work of the head start we've already made on this topic. Okay, so any questions at this stage?
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everyone. I think you touched on something about collaboration and working with each other. I think that is really key in moving forward with the GenAI things. Now, there is a question in the Q&A, and some of it you've touched on. And I was going to leave it for the panel, but I'm going to bring it in here if that's okay. So it says students frequently rely on a single, often free AI tool, unaware of the broader spectrum of AI solutions and their specific strengths. How can the university library equip its community with the knowledge to effectively leverage diverse AI tools for various academic purposes and create accessible guides with relevant links? And you created a guide, which is why I'm bringing it to you. And then is there specific courses around this for CPD for us as information professionals? So I'm going to direct that to you guys.
I think one of the things that's making that really tricky at the moment is that everything is changing. So I'm thinking, I did remind a bit of the sort of .com in the beginning of the 2000s, that lots of stuff being released, not all of it really fit state to go. I'm not sure how much of this is actually going to be monetizable and will survive. So this is one of the risks we do face. It's sort of, as soon as you start recommending use this, use that, a few months down the line, the whole thing might have killed over and no longer be available. I think the thing to emphasize is that this is a family of tools, that sort of there isn't one AI out there to rule them all. That you need to think in terms of what you're trying to achieve and pick something suitable accordingly. The different tools have their own strengths and weaknesses, and you need to look at what you're using, see what it says it can do, try it out, see what it can actually achieve. So I think that emphasis, again, is one of the reasons why we tend to concentrate more on general principles rather than this is how you use this particular AI, is that anything specific you say in a couple of months' time, it's just not be relevant anymore. But I think that message that this is not a single unified block that there is variation. There are different purposes behind these tools. I think that's the thing to emphasise, because that's the thing that's not going to change.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
some
makes
of them
sense to
start off.
people. Yeah.
Some of, sorry, Sandy. Some of them start off free, and then they come behind the paywall. You know, ChatGPT is one of them. As an example, they start off all free, don't they? And then there's paywall, and then we've got to change the way that we work, which just goes on to the second part of the question, which is, what is the current landscape regarding subscriptions to these AI tools versus individual or library funded access? So what's the stance at Sheffield Hallam?
Again, that's interesting. I mean, I think like a lot of other places, in terms of, can we suddenly afford lots of expensive new platforms? Honestly, this couldn't come at a worse time. I think quite no one else is in a similar position. And again, this is going to be, I think, a tricky thing that I think us and a lot of other changes are going to have to face. How much of this is actually affordable? Oh, Julia, yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to come in and say as well, we're very much aware of, although we haven't got the answer for this, but we are very much aware of the unequal access that students might have. I mean, some students may well be able to afford these subscription-based AI platforms. Other students don't get that access, and that's something that we are aware of, but like I say, we haven't got an answer to that yet. If anybody has, then please let us know.
No, I agree, Julia. Susanna's just put a quick question in, and people can answer in the chat, because we're going to go on to the panel discussion now. But Susanna's put in, I heard that some librarians were thinking of a cross-university group to audit the AI tools. Does anyone know any more about this? So if you do, can you put something in the chat? That'd be great. Thank you to all of you at Sheffield Hallam. I really appreciate you sharing where you're up to and what you're planning on doing next, and I'm sure others have as well. So thank you very much. Stop recording. Thank you. So next we have our panelist